Hello, I hope you all are doing well. I want to make a video for why I 100% am disgusted by Biden's actions, Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, and why I do not approve of his actions as a president. So first of all, I'm Jewish. I'm not what you would call an observant or an Orthodox Jew in the sense that I observe things the same way as the Orthodox. But I have love for Israel. I have love for the immense, intense love for the Jewish people. I have intense love for my fellow human being. Biden is not only funding terrorists, in the Middle East and in Arabia. By Arabia, I mean biblically Arabia is basically all the Middle Eastern countries that are warring against Israel in it right now. Not only that is he rewarding Arab countries, which they could use the funding for fire nuclear missiles, which they've already threatened to against Israel, but they can use it to just attack Israel with military, and it sends the wrong message. Second of all, he wants to create a two-state solution. Now, shows Biden is a complete liar and a disgrace to the American people. So he said in his description on his website, he's for the Jews owning Israel, and then he's saying, "Oh, we're going to have a two-state solution." He wasn't even against the when Obama was president. Biden wasn't even against um, when Obama had the crazy policy and he gave the Jews a terrible, so-called present, so to speak, on Hanukkah, and threatened that the Arabs would own Israel. They'd own the temple, which the Jews have owned for 3,300 years. Well, technically the temple was after that, but that's not the point. Jews own the temple. Jews own Israel. Biden doesn't get that. But anyway, Obama also threatened that the Arabs would own all of Israel, that the Arabs would own Israel and invade Jewish territories, obviously peacefully, but they would take their land, and obviously it wouldn't always be peaceful knowing the Arab countries. He literally, this is the truth, Barack Obama wanted to approve of terrorist countries invading Israel, peacefully or not, because it wouldn't have been all peacefully, and taking the Gaza Strip so that literally there Israeli settlers who lived there for at least 50 years, I'm estimating, many, many decades, have to leave and become peasants, basically. That's what Barack Obama thinks of Jews. He's anti-Semitic, and so is Biden. That is the truth. That is the 100% truth, that Biden is anti-Semitic. He hates the Jewish people. And here's another thing. He's no Catholic, and I'll tell you why. He is in support of transgender policies that are despicable and against the Bible. So it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to love our neighbor even if they're transgender. I have no problem with that. It's another thing to say, okay, we're going to support a so-called transgender person. It really doesn't even exist. It's just a label where there's two genders, male and female. But Biden's basically saying we're going to support a transgender person going to the opposite gender sports team, the opposite bathrooms where people could rape people, even pretend to be transgender, God forbid. Not trans, not pretend to be transgender, but pretend to, like, I guess, want to be. You get what I'm saying? It's a sickness of the mind, body, and soul. I'm not saying it makes you a bad person just because you might have wicked desires in your heart. However, for Biden to publicly say, okay, we're okay with a woman walking into a man's bathroom and vice versa, it's despicable, and it can lead to rape, God forbid, despicable things, immorality. And it's just an immoral thing to say, He claims to be a devout Catholic and he supports people changing their bodies. It's against the Bible. That's another thing. It's against the Bible to claim to be transgender and then change your body parts. It's one thing to say, I'm happy with how God created me. It's another thing to say, oh, I'm going to change how God created me. That's not God. That shows you have no self-esteem and you really have no respect for who you are. That's the truth. And it's a spiritual sickness. It really is. It's not really any physical sickness. It's a spiritual sickness that you need to fix some wickedness in yourself. I'm not saying you're wicked if you're transgender. We have to love everybody. There's many nice people who claim, or I should say claim to be transgender. At the same time, it's a sickness when you're saying, I need to change my body to make myself happy. I'm not saying any of those specific individuals are bad people. I'm just saying to say I need to change my body to make myself happy is wrong. So for Biden to support that and openly say, okay, it's okay to have a gay marriage, it's okay to not be fruitful, multiply as God commands in the Bible, I'm not talking about if you can't do it for financial reasons. I'm talking about just purposely going against God, and in the sense that you're going to say this is okay and publicly saying to millions of Americans it's okay. That's the problem I have with Biden. But going back to the Jews and how he mistreats the Jewish people, first of all, he doesn't really care. He is sending money to Saudi Arabia, Iran, all the Middle Eastern countries. He hasn't given Israel 1 cent. You know, 1 shekel in Israel. He doesn't give Israel 1 shekel. That shows what he thinks of Israel. He is despicable as a president. Now, I have to admit this. I actually vote for Biden. I am terribly ashamed of myself. Biden is not a good president. He, you know, isn't kind. He might be kind as a person individually to people, but he's not kind in the sense that he doesn't speak the truth. He speaks lies, and so he's giving money to Arabia, right? He's giving money, and he's not helping Israel, which he's not helping the Jewish people. He's not helping people who are really poor. He destroyed jobs with the oil industry. Many of those workers were actually Jewish. And he just doesn't seem to care about the American people. He supports taking guns from people who are that and having these ridiculous guidelines to get guns. The problem with that is that you have women who are being raped, like I said before. You have gangs, and people need guns to defend themselves. If you don't have guns, there's going to be the illegal people getting guns, people doing it illegally, and you're going to reward them, Biden, but then you're not going to reward the people who are actually doing the right thing. So the people trying to defend themselves are screwed. That is messed up, and this applies to Jews, everybody, but Biden, in short, is an anti-Semite. He hates the Jewish people. He doesn't support Israel, and he is making Israel very unsafe. Not to mention the immigrant crisis, where he's letting immigrants in with COVID under no guidelines, no interviews, which encourages sex trafficking. There has been reports of sex trafficking, God forbid, but there has been. And Biden just like, okay, well, this isn't my fault. It helps the poor in Mexico. I mean, in all honesty, I'm not saying Mexico is a good place, but it shouldn't be where he's doing it to say, oh, we need to help them, and then at the expense of the lives of millions of Americans. Poor decision, Biden. So you made a bad decision, Biden. This is directed towards you, Biden. So I just have to say, and it's no offense to the president. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but he's not fit for being president. He hates the Jewish people, he hates Israel, and he's not making the country any safer. Not to mention all the oil industry jobs he took away, which is another topic, but it was a very dumb decision. So anyway, I'm trying to think of anything else. Well, that's really about it. But in short, he rewards people who war against Israel. He hates the Jewish people. He supports Obama, and he supported Obama when he tried to take away Israel from the Jews, the state of Israel at this point, obviously. Not the same Israel we'll have when Israel's restored. And, that's the point. But the point I'm trying to make is that Biden is a terrible president. He seems like a nice guy when you first hear him speak, but in reality, he speaks lies. And it's not even just about hating the Jewish people and not giving anything to Israel, saying he's going to support Israel in his report and then lying about it. Like the description on his website before I voted for him, he said, "Oh, I fully support Israel as a Catholic." And then what does he do? He doesn't give anything to Israel. He's not supporting Israel. Complete lie. But it's not even just all that. It's simply the fact that as a president, he's not. It's the gangs and the people who are violent. He doesn't really care about, and that it's a problem. He doesn't admit it's a problem. Why? Because he's taking away guns, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, I believe. I should know that, but he's taking away guns from people who really need them to defend themselves. If you're in a bad community, you need a gun. If you're a vulnerable, pretty woman who has been a victim of sexual abuse. If you're in a brothel as a woman, you need a gun to get out of there. You see what I'm saying? So Biden doesn't even think of these actions, how they're going to affect people. And ironically, I mean, there's many people in Democratic communities with mostly Democrats. They think the same thing. There should be no gun restrictions, because if there are, there's going to be people getting them illegally anyway, and then those people are going to have them, and then the people who are doing the right thing, who are trying to defend themselves, they're going to be stuck without them. Whether it's for the simple reason, oh, you're so-called mentally ill when you're really not. Like they say, people who are mentally ill when they're trafficking victims. Oh, you have depression, you can't own a gun. It's bogus, you know what I mean? But the point I'm trying to make is that Biden is destroying the country, and I am predicting soon. I'm estimating. I'm just using my wisdom as an estimator, but I'm estimating probably by September, the end of the summer, there's going to be a lot of chaos in America. In the sense that I'm not talking about COVID per se, it could be part of it, but I'm talking about just with Biden's policies, Israel, the Middle East. There's already a lot of talk about like threats from the Middle East to Israel. You notice ever since Biden became president, that happened. Trump was a good president. He helped people with many things. He didn't care about the poor, which I didn't respect him because that's against the Bible to not really care for the poor and the needy. However, his policies protecting the country against violence, not rewarding terrorists, and at the same time helping the Jewish people in Israel. He did a very good job. He cared about the Jewish people. He condemned bad policies. He condemned violence, and he spoke out against it, which Biden fails to do. So, the unlawful rioting, Biden spoke out against it. Or not Biden, Trump spoke out against it. Biden just says, well, this is okay. This is a normal part of society. He didn't literally say it, but he literally doesn't condemn it. But there's he has said it before. Most of the time it's just implied, but the point I'm trying to make is that he's an anti-Semite. He doesn't care about the safety of the American people, and I only predict, unfortunately, soon before you know it, there'd be so many illegal immigrants in here that there'd be so many problems like sex trafficking and violence of unlawful people going in, even violence among the children coming in. I mean, it's very possible. But not only that, I'm predicting that there'd be many problems with Biden's policy, specifically with the Middle East. I'm predicting by, say September, around there, I'd say. And you might ask me how I am able to predict this. Well, I can't be sure. I'm not claiming to be a prophet, but I can say I have a lot of wisdom to be able to know these things. And I can only say that with Biden's actions, it's only going to get worse. Maybe it's not going to be exactly the amount of time, but give him another few years. I'm 99.9% sure there's going to be at least 10 more policies that will literally destroy the country and make the world a much worse place, especially the Middle East and Israel. God forbid, but I fear that it will happen. So unless, of course, God comes to judge the world, imminently, meaning it'll happen, right now or sooner. But I only fear it will get worse. So let's just, I'm gonna say a prayer right now for the country as a Jew and for the world. Ask you all to join me. Dear Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, please protect America, protect the world, protect all righteous individuals, Christians, Jews, Muslims, anybody who is a kind, righteous individual. Please protect them. Please help them merit the redemption imminently. Please protect Israel. Please protect Israel against any bad policy that Biden may or will have, including please help protect the Jewish people, all righteous individuals as well, from being harmed, even in all the turmoil that will probably exist with Biden's presidency, and fortunately with his unlawful legacy left back. Amen. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and I really appreciate your time, and God bless you all. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye.